Hey folks, how you doing? This is the Wayne S. Pierce Show. Yes, I know it's Thursday. It's the 28th of August, 2014. I've been off a couple of days retooling this show and the Views Express Live. Yeah, I'm catching up on some research. So my apologies to all of you. Yes. So what's happening today? I don't know. Go check it out. I don't know. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Check that out too as well. And speaking of which, we'll go right to it. Article in CFR magazine from the newamerican.com. Give away money to stimulate economy. Didn't George Bush do that? Also from... you'll see a video there on Free America Radio. 9/11 Explosive Evidence, Experts Speak Out trailer. AE911truth.org. Check that out as well. From misguidedchildren.com, Obama administration's unconstitutional treaty with the United Nations. He's pushing this country into communism, folks. That's just the way it is. Hey, if you've got the Facebook Messenger on your cell phone, on your iPhone, your Android, get it off now. Just delete it, okay? There's a video there on Free America Radio on Facebook. Check that out. Has NASA made a Freudian slip? Geoengineeringwatch.org. Also from the Minority Report blog.com, neighbor narcs on Florida boy's lemonade stand. I talked about that the other day in a podcast. I don't know, folks. I mean, what are we doing when we allow this kind of crap to go on? What does that tell people about us? Around the world, we have been, for years, the country where people can come and be free and get away from their tyrannical societies and all of that, and the murders and the killings and the wars, and they just want to have peace, freedom, and security just like the rest of us here in the United States. But what has happened to us, folks? What has happened to us? We've got open borders. We got illegal aliens. We can't even say that now because they're just walking over. They don't care. Neither does the U.S. Neither do most of the people. Well, I shouldn't say most. Neither do about 40% of the people in the United States. What are we doing? We're allowing this crap to happen. And we're allowing this country to fall into the hands of the global elites that want to destroy the peace, freedom, and security in this country. And you're just sitting there. You're just sitting there listening about the Kardashians and about Jay-Z and about all these things going on. You're too concerned about the award show, about football, about... I don't know. You people need a serious reality enema. Okay? Seriously. You can't go one day without listening to the propaganda on the state-run media. You can't go one day you can't think, is my point. You don't want to. But the people that listen to my show, listen to Nick Tucker, and read his post at Distorted Reality on Facebook, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on Facebook, people who listen to Pete Santilli, Mark Levin, Michael Savage, we know what's going on, and the rest of you just got your heads up your asses. Well, it's time to take it out. It's time to prepare. It's time to get real. It's time, as Brian Lang over at LiveTruthRadio.com says, stand up, speak out, and get involved. And that's what we need to do. And if you can't do that, folks, we're freaking lost. I'll be back. Don't wait until another natural or man-made disaster strikes. Have at least 72 hours of emergency gear near you at all times, and that includes food. Get your emergency food supply today. Go to freeamericaradio.us, and at the top of the page, click on the emergency food supply link. Help your family by purchasing as much emergency food supply as you need. You'll be helping out your family and Free America Radio Network. Thank you. Local radio with a worldwide connection. The Free America Radio Network. Go to www.freeamericaradio.us. Hey, folks, welcome to the Wayne S. Spear Show right here. As soon as I turn the volume down, right here at the 28th of August, 2014. How y'all doing today? You good? Awesome. You know, it's always good to get out and about and you know, do what needs to be done and kind of step back and regroup and look and see and, you know, kind of see what's going on. You know? Kind of watch people. Kind of... You know, you have to retool your thoughts as to how people are reacting and acting. And I found out one thing a couple of days ago. Actually, the last 4 days that I've really been off. And it's this. I'm sure in people's minds, as they're in taxi cabs, buses, riding the elevator up to their office, they're thinking, how am I going to protect my family if crap hits the fan? I'm pretty sure of that. But I'm also sure that they're a little bit stressed. Okay, folks? They're just, you don't see it, but you can tell by the way they move and sometimes by the way they talk, or their focus is, you know, not perfect. So I had to pull back and I had to scale back some things. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to give you the truth with the facts. Okay? What that means is I had to refocus. I had to step back. I had to look at things. I had to examine everything going on and get a new perspective. Sharing the truth one fact at a time. That's what Free America Radio Network does, and I'll continue to do that, and this network will continue to do that. But I find it odd that I get emails and I get messages and, you know, the things I post and get responses to the effect like, why do you think people are stupid? Why do you think people aren't looking at this stuff? Why do you think people aren't like you? And all this, that, and the other thing. People are, you know, getting prepared. You're just not seeing it. They're not telling you, you know. So you get the gist of the responses, right? Well, here's the thing. I stand on one principle and one principle only. I'm done with stupid people. So if you don't want to listen to this, that's fine. If you don't want the truth, one fact at a time, I don't know it all, but I'm going to give you what I got. And if you don't want to listen to it, that's on you. I would appreciate it if you would pass it on to people that you think would like to listen to this show. I appreciate that. But I'm not going to listen to people who criticize me for something they don't understand. Because all they got to do is ask, and I'll tell them. I'm not going to deal with people who have no right to tell me what to do or how to run my show or anything like that. They can just take a long walk off a short pier. I'll give them an anchor. I'm not going to deal with people who have no right to tell me things that I already know. Oh, how do they know that I already know it? All they have to do is ask. And I'm not going to deal with people who contradict me. You have no right to do that. Now, we can sit down and have a healthy debate and discussion about things, and that's fine. If you've got information to share, that's cool. Are you going to contradict me and just stand there and point fingers and yell at me? And tell me I'm wrong and tell me, well, people, all that, like I said earlier? Yeah, you can go have a nice day someplace else. I'm not going to deal with those types of people. The people that want to know will tune in. The people that want to know will read the posts on my Facebook page or my Google Plus page or my Twitter at Real W.S. Pierce. Okay? I don't have time to deal with people who just don't know. Okay? Who just don't know. And I just think that if they really cared, they would at least do the research on their own. And they would at least listen to me or Nick Tucker or Bob Brutus or Brian Lang or Pete Santilli or many number of other people who are like us. And really check it out. You can send me a tweet over on Twitter at Real W.S. Pierce if you wish. But onward and upward, because I'm going to give you the headlines, give you my take on the situation. TheNewAmericanMagazine.com, or I should say TheNewAmerican.com, has an article dated today, written by Bob Adelman. Thank you, Bob. Article in CFR Magazine. That's Council on Foreign Relations. It's another globalist group that wants to take the rights away from the American citizens. Give away money to stimulate the economy. Isn't that what George Bush did a few years back? Mark Blythe, a professor at Brown University, and Eric Lonergan, a hedge fund manager living in London, have conjured up the ultimate solution to a stagnant economy. Central banks should give away free money. These two authors of a lengthy and allegedly erudite article in September-October 2014 issue of Foreign Affairs, published by the Council on Foreign Relations, appear to be living in an alternate universe, as their suggestion, if it were fully implemented, would push the world's economy back to the Dark Ages. The article, entitled, quote, "Print Less but Transfer More, Why Central Banks Should Give Away Money Directly to the People," unquote, rests on the false assumption that the economy is stagnant because people aren't spending, and the authors propose a solution. Central banks should provide sufficient new spendable currency to the masses. Quote, "The fact that anyone would take these suggestions seriously reflects, unfortunately, the basement level of economic understanding among observers," unquote. It was Chicago economist and Professor Milton Friedman who originally suggested the idea of a negative income tax, wryly referring to it as helicopter money, money that is dropped to the masses. When former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke suggested the same thing, he became known as the Helicopter Ben, but he was merely reiterating a suggestion by the father of current economic foolishness, John Maynard Keynes, who, in 1930s, proposed burying bottles of banknotes in old gold mines, which, once unearthed like gold, would create new wealth and spur new spending. Old fallacies die hard. The author declared, quote, economic growth is stagnating while inequality gets worse. It's well past then for U.S. policymakers as well as their counterparts in other developed countries to consider a version of Friedman's helicopter drops. In the short term, such cash transfers could jumpstart the economy. The transfers wouldn't cause damaging inflation, and few doubt that they would work, unquote. Something drastic is needed, according to the authors, because current strategies to stimulate the stagnant economy just aren't working. The traditional methods of stimulating include lowering the reserve requirements so that banks can loan more money, thus increasing the supply of money in the economy. The second way is to lower interest rates to make borrowing money more attractive. The third is to purchase government bonds. When that new money enters the economy through government spending, it stimulates economic growth. Or at least according to Keynesian theory, it's supposed to. Unfortunately, say the authors, such remedies have failed to work, resulting in the present recovery of the Great Recession to be the slowest and weakest of any on record since the end of World War II. You can read the rest of that article there on Free America Radio Facebook page. I can only say this, and I'm not a financial expert by any means whatsoever. When you saw the whatever it was in your, however much you got back on your taxes, and I think in the Bush regime, did the economy grow after that? No. You know what people did? They went out and spent the money. Yeah, they did. But they didn't invest it. See, now, if the government wants to give me money and hand me $100,000, I can take this network to a whole different level. I can open my own business. I can do all kinds of stuff. If that's what they want to do, I can invest it, not just spend it. And I would say that right now, as people are looking at the economy and how their paychecks are getting smaller and smaller every week because everything else is going up, I would say that if the government did that, most people would invest. That's only a theory. I'm just speculating. But would they? Something to take a look at anyway, huh? It doesn't work. It does not work. If the government said to you, lowly old citizen right there in your living room, here's $100,000, but you have to invest it so that you can have a residual income every month. What would you do? Chances are they're not going to say that. Chances are they're going to say, oh, here's $600 on your, you'll get this back as a rebate check. Here's $600. Go have fun. Whatever it is. Right? Any smart person who struggles every week to pay their bills and to pay their mortgage and to pay their rent and to pay their utilities understands how to save $1. The question is, if the government decided to give you a quote-unquote rebate check, just helicopter funds right into your pocket, would you invest it? Or, if you're a business owner, would you reinvest in your company? Any smart person would know, hey, if I spend this money this week, I'm not going to have crap next week, and I'm going to wind up at the end of the month being in the same position I was before getting the money. So, what do? It doesn't work. If the theory behind the Keynesian helicopter money drop worked, we wouldn't be in the debt that we are currently in. We wouldn't. At least that's my take on it. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. From Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, misguidedchildren.com, Obama administration's unconstitutional treaty with the United Nations. The illegalities of the Obama administration continue to move ahead. Obama, Barry Soetoro, is supposed to be a constitutional professor. If so, this is yet more damning. New York Times reports the Obama administration is working toward international climate change agreement with the United Nations to compel nations to cut their planet-warming fossil fuels emissions. This is being done without ratification from Congress. The illegality comes from the fact that the United States president cannot enter a legally binding treaty. Let me repeat that again. The illegality comes from the fact that the United States president cannot enter a legally binding treaty without two-thirds majority approval of the Senate. Doing so, the Obama administration is yet again breaking constitutional law. The United Nations Summit meeting is scheduled 2015 in Paris. The Obama administration is working to devise a legal treaty with the United Nations in order to push for reduction of planet-warming fossil fuels. The shaming of nations would also include the United States. We have already seen this administration's war on coal without providing alternate resources for the American citizen. He shut down a whole bunch of coal plants, folks. He just shut them down. President Obama negotiators are attempting to sidestep the legal requirement of ratification from Congress by calling a politically binding deal, naming it name and shame. Regardless of what these negotiators call it, the action is unconstitutional without the ratification of Congress. Even their climate change officials agree with this. Quote, if you want a deal that includes all the major emitters, including the U.S., you cannot realistically pursue a legally binding treaty at this time, unquote, said Paul Bledsoe, top climate change official in Clinton administration, who works closely with the Obama White House on international climate change policy. Lawmakers are also in a rare agreement. Ratification will not happen with this particular gridlocked Senate. The debate of climate change caused by nature versus human-caused remains. Quote, there's a strong understanding of the difficulties of the U.S. situation and the willingness to work with the U.S. to get out of this impasse, unquote, Lawrence Tubiani, there we go, the French ambassador for climate change in the United Nations. Quote, there is an implicit understanding that this does not require ratification by the Senate, unquote. Obama negotiators are attempting to create a hybrid agreement. The idea is is a proposal to blend legally binding conditions from an existing 1992 treaty with new voluntary pledges. The mix would create a deal that would update the treaty and thus, negotiators say, not require a new vote of ratification. This attempted hybrid agreement would require countries to legally be obligated to enact climate change policies. However, the specific levels of emission cuts and the amount of money to channel to poor countries would be left as voluntary by those same countries. Quote, there's some legal and political magic to this, unquote, said Jack Schmidt, an expert in global climate negotiations with the Natural Resources Defense Council, an advocacy group. Quote, they're trying to move this as far as possible without having to reach the 67-vote threshold, unquote, in the Senate. This type of action has been seen in past administrations where the federal government continues to push the boundaries or cross them for more power than originally granted by the Constitution and the intentions of the Founding Fathers. However, the current Obama administration continues to go over these boundaries. As he does, everything he does is unconstitutional, folks. Get your head wrapped around that. In seeking to go around Congress to push his international climate change agenda, Mr. Obama is echoing his domestic climate strategy. In June, he bypassed Congress and used his executive authority to order a far-reaching regulation forcing American coal-fired plants to curb their carbon emissions. That regulation, which would not be final until next year, already faces legal challenges, including a lawsuit filed on behalf of a dozen states. Quote, unfortunately, this would be just another of many examples of the Obama administration's tendency to abide by laws that it likes and to disregard laws it doesn't like and to ignore the elected representatives of the people when they don't agree, unquote, says Senator Mitch McConnell, the Kentucky Republican and minority leader, said in a statement. Poor countries have also raised their concern over this attempted hybrid agreement. Africa and other low-lying island nations officials fear the agreement made outside the structure of a traditional United Nations treaty will not bind rich countries to spend billions of dollars to help developing nations deal with the forces of climate change. These same poor countries look to the richer countries for the assistance of building dams and levees, while also help protect their lands from coastal flooding, from rising seas, and other natural disasters. Think of Haiti during their tragedy. Quote, without an international agreement that binds us, it's impossible for us to address the threats of climate change, unquote, said Richard Mayugan, a climate negotiator in Tanzania. Quote, we are not as capable as the U.S. of facing this problem, and historically we don't have as much responsibility. What we need is just one thing. Let the U.S. ratify the agreement. If they ratify the agreement, it will trigger action across the world, unquote. Folks, climate change, comprehensive climate change policies, all of that, climate change. Think of those two words, climate change. Think of those two words. Sum it up in one word, break it down to simple understanding. Weather. That's all it is. That's all it is, folks. You cannot legislate weather. You cannot make any policy whatsoever to battle weather. Now, you can create policies and regulations and work with the current areas where it floods, where it, a lot of stuff like that. And you can work with the states and with the countries that have the problem in flooding and look at the levees and look at the dams and look at other things like that and see what you can do about helping in that fashion. But you cannot legislate weather. I'm sorry, you cannot do it. Anybody that is on board with this climate change bull crap is completely stupid. It's Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Go look it up. Thank you, Al Gore. You cannot legislate weather, and I'd wish they'd just stop. We need to push these people to shut up about climate change. Climate change. You cannot legislate weather. Granted, again, as I said, you can look at the locations and areas and all this and try to keep, the floods from inundating your cities or towns or little villages. You can make dams and whatever. Yes, do that. Save some people in the process. Look at what was it, Indonesia? That earthquake that had all that water in that city? Could you have saved more people? Probably. How many people died in that? It was 2004, right? There was 250,000 people apparently died in there, in that catastrophe. Okay? Could we have saved some of them people? I don't know. But building dams and high walls and seawalls and such like that, you probably wouldn't have had that many people die. Don't know how many, but who knows? Folks, I'm going to go to break. Bottom of the hour. I'm only doing an hour show, so I got a half hour left. So, folks, join me, man. Join me in the chat. Go to Spreaker.com, look up Free America Radio Network. Check it out, The Wayne S. Pierce Show. And, email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com, freeamericaradio@usa.com. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. Talk to you in a bit. If you're into liberty and libertarian values, tune in to The Angel Clark Show, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, at radiofreedom.us.
No elitist dribble, no media spin. Logic over emotion, fact over fiction. The home of independent conservative thought. The Conservative Voice with your host, Jeff Wagner, only on the Conservative Radio Network.
Around the planet on the World Wide Web.
The storm is on the horizon. The system of government that we currently have in this country is collapsing. We are on the brink of total disaster as a nation, a people, and a planet. Who or what can save us? Listen to The Views Expressed live, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, at freeamericaradio.us. Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome back to the Wayne S. Pierce Show for Thursday, the 28th of August, 2014. How y'all doing today? I know it's odd to hear this show live on a Thursday, but tomorrow I will be live. I have a guest on the Views Express Live, so I've got to set up all that and so that you can listen to the show. Anyway, come join me tomorrow on the Views Express Live, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Free America Radio Network on Spreaker or on freeamericaradio.us. Oh, goodness gracious, folks. I gotta say this. I want to say this, when I listen to people like Alex Jones or Glenn Beck or people like that, and then I hear comments from people who have listened to them, and I see the comments on Facebook and stuff like that, I am totally blown away by the fact that people absolutely do not know what they're talking about. They don't. And it has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that they just don't know. And I know why. Number one, they don't want to know. But these people, Glenn Beck and Alex Jones, and these people who are negatively commenting about what they say, the people that are commenting, they're literally saying within themselves, these people aren't saying what I want to hear. I don't want to, and I know this because I've met, in my past, when I was living in California, I've met people who have listened to, Art Bell and George Norrie and stuff and they say the same thing. Why do these people talk about this? Blah, 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 blah. Conspiracy theorists. Okay? I used to tell them the same thing that I'm telling you. Prove it. Stop criticizing something you don't understand. Listen to what they have to say. And both of them, Glenn Beck and Alex Jones, have told their audience, don't believe us, go out and check it out yourself. I tell people that. And if you don't take it upon yourself to go out and check it out, hey, I don't know. You're just going to have to sit there in your little deluded little bliss and think that everything's just fine. Well, have fun. Now, Here's a report. As soon as I get the page up. Page. Google Chrome. Google, speaking of which, gets into game of drones. I love that wordplay. Tony Rom over at Politico.com. Thank you, Tony. Google long ago embarked on the road of self-driving cars, and now the company is turning its ambitions to the skies with drones. The top-secret Google X Research Lab announced Thursday it is investing in and testing unmanned aerial vehicles, an endeavor called Project Wing. Go look it up, folks. That someday might deliver packages to consumers. The gambit puts Google in a growing camp of companies like Amazon and Facebook, which increasingly are sponsoring their own research or trying to buy their way into the emerging drone market. For the moment, Google is only experimenting with the prototype craft in Australia, not the United States. It has hired Dave Voss, a well-known aerial technology expert, to lead its drone team, and it's only the beginning of the journey. Google now must navigate a host of technology challenges in the lab and a thicket of regulatory hurdles in Washington if it really wants its new drones to take flight worldwide. I'm going to put this on Free America Radio on Facebook, so you can read the rest of the story. Have you seen the Google self-driving cars? I'm just wondering, have you? Email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com, freeamericaradio@usa.com. Now, I heard this morning, and both Alex Jones and Pete Santilli talked about this. Ukraine asserts Russian invasion and reinstitutes draft. The big news is that Russia has invaded the Ukraine. By the way, folks, there have been operatives there for 5 or 6 years now. And the United States tried to overthrow the government by installing another leader before the one that they currently have. That didn't work too well. So they're trying everything they can. Moscow asserting that Russian soldiers and armaments had crossed into Ukraine to support the separatists. President Petro Poroshenko of Ukraine canceled a trip to Turkey on Thursday. Why is he going to Turkey? And his National Security Council ordered mandatory conscription of the armed forces. Mandatory conscription. If you know that phrase, if you are old enough to have known a family member or yourself being in Vietnam prior to 1974, you know exactly what that is. It's called the draft. Quote, columns of heavy artillery, huge loads of arms, and regular Russian servicemen come to territory of Ukraine from Russia through the uncontrolled border area, unquote. Mr. Poroshenko said at the beginning of an emergency meeting of the Ukrainian Nation Security and Defense Council in Kiev. Mercenaries, along with regular servicemen, were trying to overrun positions held by Ukrainian military, he said, according to a statement on his official website. Quote, the situation is certainly extremely difficult, and nobody is going to simplify it, Mr. Poroshenko said. Still, it is controlled enough for us to refrain from panic, unquote. Panic could be used as a weapon, just like tanks, armored personnel carriers, and rifles, he said. Nonetheless, the deputy head of the council, Mikhailo Koval, I think. Mikhailo Koval, announced after the meeting had concluded that mandatory conscription, which was suspended last year, would be restarted this fall, news services reported. Let me just highlight some of the stuff here. Mr. Poroshenko spoke as NATO released satellite images to corroborate its accusations that Russian forces were actively involved in Ukrainian fighting. NATO also said that more than 1,000 Russian soldiers had joined the separatists battling the Ukrainian military. In Washington, President Obama condemned the Russian actions in the Ukraine, calling them a pattern part of a pattern of behavior that began months ago, which he said had already led to Russia's political and economic isolation because of the West sanctions. Mr. Obama told a news conference he expected that the United States and its European partners would take additional measures, but did not characterize the latest Russian actions as an invasion of the Ukraine. Colonel Andriy Lysenko, a spokesman for the National Security Council, said that the Ukrainian military was planning a counteroffensive against the separatists and what he called, quote, more and more Russians, unquote, in the country, but declined to provide details about military plans. Good for him. He also accused Russia of sending new aircraft defense systems into eastern Ukraine. Bad for Russia. Separatists aided by Russia held the town of Novozovsk, I guess. I don't know. Some Ukrainians want to tell me how to pronounce that word. With Ukrainian forces having retreated a day earlier, quote, there was a regrouping of our troops to better protect Mariupol, unquote. Colonel Lysenko said at a briefing in Kiev, saying the aim was to try to prevent the other side from penetrating the key southern city. There was fighting going on over there, folks. This is a long freaking article, so I'm going to put this up on Free America Radio on Facebook. And there is, and I do want to say, there is talk behind the scenes in alternative media that, and they've got proof of it as well, that the Russian military is literally going to go full bore into the Ukraine to take it over because our operatives as well, have been there for months trying to stabilize the country. Okay, because of what happened, a year or so ago, and all that. So, we tried to overthrow the country. Russia caught wind of it and said, wait, you guys are doing what? No, we're sending our troops in. Well, by that time, because we got our hand caught in a cookie jar, we had to replace the leader. So we've done that. Now it's back to square one. So it's a mess over there, and I don't know all there is to know about it. But I know enough to know that Russia's going to kick some major ass if somebody doesn't get their head out of their rear end. Okay? You don't want to mess with Vladimir Putin. He'll just come in with all his tanks and everything and just, done. The Ukraine is his. Now, some parts of the Ukraine have already signed on to the, to Russian government. They were going to sign on to the EU, but that fell through. So, obviously they had to sign on to something. So, anyway, it's a mess over there is my point. It's a huge, massive freaking mess. All right? And we are getting our hands dirty over there. And Russia doesn't like it. That's about as simple as I can put it. I don't have... let me rephrase this. I look at everything and I can identify with several things in relationship to the United States and what they're doing to not only us, but to others around the world. And I find it difficult, okay, to, even I find it difficult to wrap my mind around the fact that people don't want to see the reality of what's going on. I don't know, folks. I don't know. What is going on over there? Let me simplify it for you. The United States on record has created false flag events to get us into war. The Gulf of Tonkin in 1964 got us into Vietnam. 1993, the FBI and other intelligence sources created an event at the World Trade Center by blowing up a truck in the basement parking area. That set up the design, creation, and implementation of what happened September 11, 2001. Now, I've seen both sides of the issues when it comes to the government setting things up and getting us into war and all, the whole nine yards. Let me tell you what the result, or what the result they want is. Let me tell you what that is. It is a total absolution, a total abolishment of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States of America. It is the result of what they want is communism in the United States. Don't get me wrong. You need to go check it out yourself, because I know I'm right. Why? Because I've connected the dots. I went down the list of, here's this, the government did this, they said this, the government did that, they said that, the government did this. I went down the list. And I found that our government is deceiving us in every way and using the propaganda machine of the state-run media to do it. Okay? And word has it that Obama, since he's not going to use Congress for what it was constitutionally there for, Obama is probably going to sign executive action. Now, this is what I heard. I don't have any verification on this. Could be total speculation. That he could sign a piece of paper giving him full reign of the United States and abolishing the Constitution and setting himself up as a dictator. Or at least, if he doesn't do that, give himself a third term. And there's enough people on his side right now, it would be difficult at this moment to do so, but he would probably sway people to his side. He probably would. I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how it would be implemented. What I foresee, if I were to look into my little crystal ball, what I foresee is him suspending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights either before or shortly thereafter the midterm elections to give him more power. Because the Senate is not going to vote to give him more power, more executive power. They're not. But his buddies on the left and the people that control him are just going to go beyond the law, beyond the Constitution, and just tell him, take executive power. I just have that feeling that there needs to be a huge event take place for him to do that. Huge. Something on the scale of 9/11. Huge. Do I see that coming? Well, if the trends of false flag events continues, I wouldn't doubt it. But that's entirely speculative. Or is it? Because we may be seeing all of that happen right before our eyes. With the Ukraine, with Iraq, with Syria, with ISIS. We might be seeing it. But you never know. So I would say, also in regards to that, I'd prepare myself. I'd do everything I could because, one strike on a power plant in a relatively large city would probably knock the power out for a good 72 to 96 hours. At least. Possibly longer. Now, I'm broadcasting from the biggest little city in the world behind enemy lines in FEMA Region 9 in Reno, Nevada. And in the area, in Reno proper, and in some outlying areas, there's about 300,000 people. So you take out the power plant, and guess what? You're going to have at least half of those people in the dark. Okay? That's a lot of people to be in the dark. How are you going to take care of yourself? You can't fire up the stove and eat. You can't do that unless you got camping gear. Then you'll break it out and fire it up, and there you go. Got some emergency food supplies? Better get them. Let me plug this. I don't usually do it on air, but let me plug it anyway. Emergency food supply, freeamericaradio.us, top of the page. Click on it. Get as much as you want. You'll be helping yourself out. And also, Free America Radio Network. You got to do what you got to do, folks. Now, of course, you've got the other side of that spectrum saying, well, this might be propaganda as well. We hear it on the news. We hear it all over the place. You know, the government might be sending out all of this propaganda to cause fear within all of us and put out the psyops that says, oh, this is going to happen or this might happen. They might be orchestrating the narrative, if you know what I mean. So the information that myself and others on this level of you know, informational for us to look at this is my point. For us to look at this, we have to examine all aspects of it. And is the federal government orchestrating the narrative? Is the federal government putting out words and little, you know, snippets of, you know, what they would... Are they controlling the other side? Because you've seen people like Sean Hannity go off on the imam. You've seen Rush Limbaugh talk about stuff, and then, you know, he might sound as if he's contradicting himself the next day. You know, that kind of thing. Is the government putting out information that those people are picking up? And is it just a psyops? Well, Edward Bernays talked about it. The father of modern-day propaganda. And so we have to take a look at it, and we have to examine it. But the best thing to do is to find the information on your own and sift through it and find what is accurate, honest, and reliable. Look at the sources and find out if they're reliable. Look at everything. I don't care if you don't like Glenn Beck or Alex Jones. It doesn't matter. Look at the information that they're telling you. You don't like Michael Savage or Mark Levin? So what? Look at the information they're telling you about. You don't like me? Look at the information. Go out and check it out yourself. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. I really, really don't know what else to tell you. I mean, you have to be responsible for yourself, your family. You got to make plans. You got to have an exit plan. Anybody in a big city, downtown, big buildings, you know, Chicago, San Francisco, New York City, whatever, you better get the hell out now. Make an exit plan. Find a place way out, away from big buildings, and find a way to survive. If you're fortunate enough to have a summer cottage somewhere on the coast, get off the coast. If you have to go to the mountains, if you have a cabin in the mountains of Colorado or Utah, head there. You need radios, you need food, you need guns, you need ammo. Yes, it's going to get that bad. And I'm not just saying that. No, it's not. I'm not trying to feed y'all this. No. When you look at the trends, when you look from, days gone past, when you look up to this point, you've had situations where you've had to make an exit plan. The perfect example that I can give you is the era of the Great Depression. 1929, October, the stock market crashed. Everybody got screwed, except for actor Charles Chaplin, who sold his interest in United Artists to Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and made a huge amount of money, and when everything went to hell in a handbasket, he took off. You need to make an exit plan. You need to find out where you can go, what you can do. I mean, my point is that you really, 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 really have to plan for the worst. For the worst. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. The only way that I know how to do that, my grandmother was the smartest woman that I had ever met. She did a lot. But I got to tell you, you need to find a way to take care of yourself, get off the grid, do whatever it is you need to do. Oh, and by the way, the government doesn't want you to get off the grid. You hear stories about that all the time. A woman faces charges for not plugging into the city's, power grid. Well, because she wants to live off the grid. We have a right to do that. You hear stories about that all the time. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. I really don't. I just know that it's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. Let me give you this headline. I'll put this up on Free America Radio on Facebook. Obama crafts. As soon as I get there, let me do this again. Coming down to the wire. Let me give you the headline, and I'll put this on. Free America Radio. It's from the AP. Obama crafts legal rationale for immigration steps. I'll give that to you on the Free America Radio Facebook page. And in the meantime, folks, I only had an hour today. I got a lot to do. So I will talk to you tomorrow. I have a guest. I got to get everything set up. So 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Views Express Live. It's going to be a little different show, but that's okay because it's called the Views Express for a reason. We go everywhere, on every side of the spectrum, talk about any subject. It's okay. We can do that. FreeAmericaRadio.us is the website. FreeAmericaRadio.USA.com is the email address. FreeAmericaRadio@USA.com. And I will have a podcast up hopefully sometime tomorrow. Don't know yet. Got a plan for that live broadcast with the guest. So come join me on the Views Express Live, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Free America Radio Network on Spreaker.com and at FreeAmericaRadio.us. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend. If you guys don't get a hold of me, go to Free America Radio on Facebook for more information. Go to thewaynespearshow.weebly.com and also the Wayne S. Pierce Show on Facebook. Talk to you folks later. Enjoy.